Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
And I was just reading the front flap, which is fascinating to me, just to hear a little bit about what Gary does besides leading companies and inspiring people. He also treks in the Himalaya mountains, rides his bicycle over roadless European mountain passes, and climbs in the Sierra Nevada. And he does all these things for fun. So I think that's a little strange. So I also think he'll fit right in with our group here, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say about working incredibly hard and not selling out and inspiring all of us and all the folks that work for him. So please help me welcome Gary Erickson.
Thank you. Is this one working? Can you hear me on the? Okay. Well, this is my first talk on a 3-month roadshow to push my book, and I hope you don't. I hope my rough draft of the first one isn't too crazy. I'm actually kind of blown away because several years ago I started a business with $1,000, basically out of my garage, went into my mom's kitchen, and now I'm talking at Microsoft headquarters. I never thought that would happen, so maybe that's a sign of making it. Okay. How many of you have had a Clif Bar in your life? How many of you had more than 100 in your entire life? You know, I've never asked this question before. All right, let's go for a big one. Maybe 500? Oh my God! Thank you very much. Well, all of you are the reason I'm here, because without your support and without purchasing our product and being a loyal consumer, as I can see many of you are, I wouldn't be standing here today. This book is about a lot of things, and when I decided to give a talk, I wanted to try to narrow it down to a focused discussion of a few things. And I thought of an idea. And this is in the book, but it's not consolidated this way. It's 2 bike rides and a walk around the block that changed. 2 bike rides and a walk around the block that changed my life forever. So let me give you the scene. It's 1986. Oh, by the way, that picture was just up there because I needed a picture up there. No real. How about if we could just take that screen off if you want for now. Actually, no, I have something. I am not a computer person. This is like the oddest thing for me to be. Look at that, huh? How's that? Talk to my brother about that. He's the one who set this up for me. Okay. I'll give you his number. 1986. I started a small bakery in Berkeley, California on $1,000. We made cookies and a calzone type product, and went from deli to deli, and just, you know, total entrepreneur, out of the garage type thing. They were my mom's recipes. Started to grow that company. We grew from $20,000 annual sales in 1986 to $300,000 in 1991. I still never made any money, no profit. I was working 2 jobs. Literally living in a garage with no bathroom and no heat. Was making about $10,000 gross back then with all the jobs I was doing, and I was happy. I was very happy because I was able to still do all the things I love to do: ride my bike, go climbing. I drove a funky little Datsun 510 that I bought for $300 around. And then one day I had this idea, which I will get into more detail later, but I had an idea for a new product, which became Clif Bar, and that was in 1990. 2 years after that, Clif Bar was launched, and in the first year, we did $700,000 in sales. So I did over twice as much than the previous business did in 5 years, and actually made some money off the deal too, which was unique. No investors, totally self-funded, and from 1992 to 1999, we went from 1 employee to 6 in 94 to 65 in 1999. We're able to grow from $700,000 in sales to $40 million in sales in 8 years. Again, no debt and no investors. Really an incredible story for entrepreneurship, total grassroots, real just, day-to-day kind of living. And then things started to happen during that time. Growing pains, competition, more growing pains as the company grew, and more competition. Sales began to slow some, our profit went down, and our 2 largest competitors, Balance Bar and Power Bar, were bought by the 2 largest food companies in the world. Kraft bought Balance Bar, and Nestle bought Power Bar. My partner at the time, 50% partner, was completely flipping out. It's one thing to go from the low risk of, if you do a few $100,000 in sales and it all goes away and you're not making any money anyway, what's the big deal? Now we're a $40 million company, and the pressure's on, and the big competitions come in, and the whole company is kind of freaking out. How are we going to compete against these big guys? And in fact, let me read to you one part in my book. I quote a lot of employees throughout the book, little sidebars I call them. And this is kind of interesting because at that time, I made a pretty split-second decision that kind of like, I give. All right, I give. Let's start talking to the big guys. Since they're buying everybody else, what choice do I have? And one of our employees wrote this. It says, we saw a bunch of suits around the office, so we knew something was happening. But there were rumors, people saying, they were going to sell the company. I'm going to be out of a job. As soon as we are bought, everyone will get fired. I saw them going to meetings all the time, groups of people in business suits. It was funny because no one is ever in here with a suit on. And then secondly, we are constantly being told that Clif Bar is looking for external sources of financing to help us grow, but otherwise we are being kept in the dark. The current activity regarding Power Bar and Balance Bar is creating a lot of concern as how long it will take for big money from Nestle and Kraft to squeeze us out of the energy bar market. Clif Bar employee. So I went on a 3-month roadshow, hired an investment banker, and I was ready. I was ready to cash it out. And then at the end of the 3-month tour, we decided on one company that came in with a bid. And here's what happened. This is page 1 of Raising the Bar. Monday, April 17, 2000, and I was about to become a very rich man. Today, my business partner and I would sell Clif Bar, Inc., our company, for $120 million. I would have more money than Carter has pills, as my dad always said. I'd never have to work again. But instead of feeling excited, I felt nauseated constantly and hadn't slept in weeks. Attorneys from Clif Bar and Company X had worked feverishly all weekend. heGÇÖs flew in from the Midwest to finalize the details. Finally, it was late Monday morning, and I stood in the office waiting to go out and sign the contract. Out of nowhere, I started to shake and couldn't breathe. I'd climbed big mountains, raced bicycles, played horn in jazz concerts. I handled pressure well. So this first ever anxiety attack took me by surprise. I told my partner that I needed to walk around the block. Outside, as I started across the parking lot, I began to weep, overwhelmed. How did I get here? Why am I doing this? I kept walking. Halfway around the block, I stopped dead in my tracks, hit by an epiphany. I felt in my gut, I am not done. And then, I don't have to do this. I began to laugh, feeling free instantly. I turned around, went back to the office, and told my partner, send them home. I can't sell the company. A walk around the block changed my life forever. So how did this all get started? What was the first epiphany? I mentioned the word epiphany in there. Well, back in 1990, I was on a bike ride that changed my life forever. So we got a walk that changed my life forever because I decided, instead of to cash out, decided to stick it out and keep the company. But how did this all get started? It started with a bike ride in 1990. My friend Jay and I just came back from Europe a few months earlier, doing a big ride in Europe. And he said, dude, because he always called me dude. And did they say dude in Washington? Okay. Do 47-year-old people say dude? I do. He said, dude, let's go on this ride. I got this great ride. And he was always scheming up these great rides. You know people like that. They're looking at maps and stuff. This is Jay. So he planned this ride. He thought it was going to be 125 miles. And we took along with us 6 power bars, a banana, and some sports drinks. And we rode, and we did route finding and everything. And we got to the top of a mountain called Mount Hamilton in San Jose. And it's the biggest climb in the whole thing. The problem was that 125-mile ride he said we thought we would do, we were already at about 125 miles. And so we had about another, now we figured, 50 to go. And I was down to 1 power bar, and I was famished and bonking and hungry. And I looked at that thing and I said, I can't do this. I can't choke down another power bar. And that was the moment I call Epiphany number 1 in the Clif Bar journey. That's when I decided I had this moment of clarity that maybe the world needs another energy bar. And back then, in 1990, power bar really was the only game in town. And so that's what happened. And I followed up on that idea. In a sense, it was a fork in the road. And I could have taken the fork of, no, I got other things to do. But I took the right turn or the left turn, whatever it was, and followed up on that idea, and that became Clif Bar. And I think of that idea as, and you think of this too, I think in your job, and especially at Microsoft, you think of it as solving a pain. For me, eating power bars was a pain. And innovation sometimes is considered solving a pain. I'm sure that's why computers work the way they do, because you want to make it easier and easier for people. And that's what I was doing, and that's how we look at a lot of what we do at Clif Bar. But there's another bike ride that changed my life forever and kind of set the tone for not only why I ended up walking away from selling the company, but also has led my wife and I, who is here today, on how we want to run our company, Clif Bar. A philosophy that you've probably heard the term before. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But that truly has been something that I have taken to heart. And through this journey, which I'm just going to have a little fun with you and show you a little slideshow of a journey I did starting in 1986. It's chapter 4 in the book. So if you get the book, you'll be able to read about a lot more details on this. So in 1986, that's Jay. And I said, dude, meet me in Lucerne, Switzerland. And I gave him a little pack. And you see that little pack he's got underneath his seat there? That's all we carried on this bike trip. I gave him that pack and said, load it up. And we're going on a 2-week trip. I don't know where we're going, but we're going to go from Lucerne, and I want to ride all the passes that they do in the Tour de France, the Tour de Switzerland, the Giro d'Italia. And we'll figure it out when we get over there. So he met me there. And there's a lot of detail in the book that you're not going to get today because I don't want to take, too much time. That's on the Gavia in northern Italy, a beautiful path. Now that's paved. So I was felt fortunate I got to do that about 10 times without being paved. And so we met over there. And so this is an old trip I did in 1982 where I traveled really heavy. And one of the keys I wanted to do on this trip was to travel light. Because you can't go over passes like the one here if you're going to carry all that stuff, you just literally cannot cycle up these steep between 16 and 22% grades with 50 or 60 pounds on your bike. And it would be even dangerous on the downhills because your brakes would burn out. So that's an old trip. And here's Jay at one of our stops comparing a group that we saw at a little store. That's their packs on the left and his pack, and then the way we traveled on the right. It was beautiful. It was light. We could feel the bike. And we rode passes like this, the Stelvio. Just the most amazing roads in the world. And here's one called the Col du Izoard in France. Cycling in Europe, for me, is like the ultimate. The roads over there, the people respect cyclists. Now, with the Tour de France on TV, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the tour and can see some of these beautiful roads in the mountains. This is in the Dolomites. My wife and I just got back from doing a trip there. This is called the Passo Giao. Recognize that, kid?
Yeah.
Well, is this microphone not working?
It works.
Okay. You can turn it up there. We didn't have any support, so this is the Giro d'Italia, and someone is, these are cars. This guy's actually hanging onto a car, which is illegal. But we didn't have any support. No one there to change our bike tires. And here I am just being funny because I got a flat and there was no one going to come save me, so I had to fix my flat. We stayed in places like this, which my wife and I actually stayed in this just about a month and a half ago. Beautiful little refugios in the mountain. You just ride along and stay in it. Got to wash your own clothes at night. Got to ride in the rain sometimes. Even had hypothermia once, you'll read about in the book. Sometimes even snow. Now and then you can catch a draft of a Vespa or some kind of... You don't have a big Peloton to hang on to. And sometimes you draft some cows that are going down the road. And sometimes you actually, with this trip, we got off the road and got onto some dirt. Now this is 1986, before mountain bikes were really big. In fact, I didn't even have a mountain bike back then. But I've done a lot of trips where you just ride off road. Just incredibly gorgeous, gorgeous roads. In fact, sometimes we even had to hike with our bikes because we wanted to, and we chose some routes there. This is in France, in the corner of Switzerland, France, and Italy, the only place where all three of those countries come together. And this is that same thing, it's a huge glacier coming down. And then there are times when, and you'll read in the book, I've got a story about going over this pass, which is kind of fun, and why we even did this. And I won't get into that story, I'll let you read about that. But probably one of the most funnest days of my life. Sometimes you can glissade. How many people know what glissading is? Yeah. Glissade down with your bike. How's that? Put your armpit on top of your seat, stick your feet out, and go down about 20 miles an hour. I know it's crazy. This is not conventional. Downhills sometimes could last 45 minutes to an hour, traveling at 30 to 50 miles an hour. Beautiful, perfect roads. But the theme of this ride became really three things. Eat, sleep, ride. Again. Eat, sleep, ride. That's about all you could do. And I have found, and this is the first time that Kit and I got to travel together and do this type of trip, but it became so beautiful. Just every day, it's all you had to think about. Just get up in the morning. You don't have like one of those big packs where you got to pack like all your clothes when you're traveling. It was really simple. Just stuff everything back in the shoebox, stick it underneath your seat, ride all day and eat all day. And it was just beauty. And sometimes, actually, we had a lot of espresso. And now and then, like every day, beer and wine. And the food over there, of course, as you know, in Italy and France and Switzerland, is just gorgeous. But the big learning on this trip, and this is what Chapter 4 is all about in my book, is that there are several routes that you can pick when you travel over there. And the first day that Jay and I met in Lucerne, Switzerland, we were headed for this pass called the Grosser Scheidegg. And it's a beautiful pass that goes over into Grindelwald or Wengen, and then you've got the Eiger and the Jungfrau there. And we were headed, man, we just wanted to get to that pass, because that's what we were there for, to ride the passes. And we ended up riding, and we accidentally got on the freeway. We didn't even know. And this guy pulls over, and he figured we were some clowns from another country, so he spoke to us in English and said, "You're not supposed to be on the road. This is illegal. Get off the road." we said, oh, I don't know. So we got off the road and we started riding down this other road. We had a map that didn't give us all the small detail. It was one of these huge maps that had Italy, France, Switzerland, you know, the whole deal on it. And here we are doing a bike ride. We're going to travel all over the Alps, and we've got a bike ride that's just all the main roads, the main arteries. And we soon figured out that we had the wrong maps. I mean, you would think we would know this, but we're climbers, you know. We didn't ride our bike that much. And we finally figured out, so we started asking people as we were cycling around, you know, like, we're looking for roads and there's not many cars. Oh, yeah, you take this road and you go down. So then finally, by the time we got, you know, a few days later, we went and bought a map that had all the detail on it. This is an example of a map. This is not the Michelin map, but this is an Italian brand of maps. And typically what you find is, like, I define it as three different colors. You've got red roads, yellow roads, and white roads. And the red roads are the main artery from point A to point B, and the yellow are sort of medium arteries, and then the white roads are the ones that sort of, the really small ones that kind of squiggle around, and they really probably and definitely are not the fastest way from point A to point B. But you know what happened was, we didn't really care anymore. We weren't going from point A to point B. And in fact, we knew kind of the passes we wanted to go to, but we ended up trying to find as many white roads in between the passes as possible. So it didn't become about the destination, it became about the road or the journey. And in my book, I've got this sort of map laid out. This is an example of if you're just going to do a red road trip, getting from point A to point B, you need a scale. This scale is, I forget, I can't even read it. 1,435,000. Okay. And the maps that we were using were more like 1 in 100,000. And those are the ones where you can see all the little detail of the map. And so let me just read a little bit of what I write about in my book about the difference. And so this is called Finding the White Roads. Our trip kept getting better now that we knew the types of roads we wanted to travel. The map made it very clear which roads would be busy with lots of buses, trucks, and cars, and which roads would be quiet, narrow country roads. The Michelin map defined roads as red, yellow, or white. Main roads busy with buses, trucks, and cars were marked boldly in red. Yellow roads were minor arteries, not as big as red roads, but well traveled. The hundreds of roads branching off from the red and yellow roads were marked in white. We started on the red road, moved to the yellow, and by day 3 our mantra became, ride the white road. White roads held adventure as well as the most spectacular views. We met people face to face rather than at bus tours, stops, or gas stations. On our Col Ferret day, we pushed the white road journey to another level. That was the one where we were hiking with our bikes. We connected a white road with another white road by a dirt trail, even though it meant walking with our bikes on our backs. So how does this relate to business and the way we run our business? Really have to read the whole book to see the whole story, but let me give you just a taste. Okay. So it's about the destination, a company on the red road. Red road marks the fastest, the widest, fastest road, the most direct and quick route from point A to point B. On the red road, it's about the destination. The largest red roads are freeways. Often bicycles are not allowed, as we discovered. Even if bicycles are allowed, you will encounter heavy car, truck, and bus traffic. When you pull your bike over at a hotel or cafe, you encounter tourists, not locals. Fast food, not regional cuisine. On the red road, a truck may make an innocent mistake and swerve into your path. The red road is dangerous, noisy, hackneyed, stressful, and full of risk that is out of your control. Paradoxically, certain types of risks are minimized on the red road. You can always find a gas station, hotel, or store if you need food or assistance. You can stick out your thumb for a ride to the next town. You always find people. Sometimes you may get on the red road without realizing it, and at times the red road may be the only way from point A to point B. A company on the red road believes business is about the destination, about moving from point A to point B. A red road company's primary reason for being, its destination, is maximizing shareholder value. The essence of maximizing shareholder value is financial gain. When shareholder value and the bottom line become the reasons for being in business, Everything else feeds that agenda. The fun of getting there is getting there, a company on the white road. On the white road, the moment, the journey itself matters most. When you're riding a mountain bike down a difficult section of trail, you worry about where you are at that moment. If you think about your destination, if you take your focus off the path beneath you, falling becomes inevitable. White road companies don't have a set or final destination. The trip could end anywhere. What would be a final destination for Clif Bar, Inc.? Would it be selling the company, reaching a certain monetary goal, employing a certain number of people, posting 200 different products? Those aren't our ultimate goals. We plan like any company does, but center our discussion on what roads we'd like to travel and the type of business we'd like to become. The road, not the destination, drives Clif Bar. So after really we took the company off the market, we had to decide what this road was going to look like. And it could have been maximize shareholder value. And it's not that we don't want to make a living out of what we do, but as the sole shareholders, we really had the choice to pick what kind of company we want to be. What's our return on investment? It really came down to our choice. We didn't have thousands of shareholders, and we didn't have a board of directors and all that. And I have really I never came from a big company environment, so I don't know how it's all run, but I did know in this case it was really simple. We could just decide if we wanted to be a nonprofit or something, we could go that direction. So after hours and hours of discussion, deciding as we had to then buy out my partner, which cost $50 million plus financing, because my partner wanted out after I took the company off the market. And I'm sorry for keep saying this, but I'm not going to go into the details of how we did structure the deal, but it is an interesting story about how we structured a deal to buy out my partner without losing control of the company. And now it stands at 2.5 years later, we are now the 100% owners of our company, and we are paying off a debt, but we are the sole owners. And so what we decided was, yes, we want to stay in business. Number one, we want to remain private. And we're going to commit to that. Because for us, being a small company from Berkeley, going public or being owned by partly by a big company or venture capital and all, really would mean eventually down the road we wouldn't own our company anyway. So we wanted to take a shot and remain private for the remainder of our lives and hopefully succeed our business somehow. But secondly, the term sustainability came into our vocabulary because we started thinking about the environment. And we started thinking about the community, and we started thinking about our people, and we started thinking about our brands, and we started thinking about just our business model itself. What would be a long-term sustainable business model? So we used the term sustaining our living company. And at the end of the year, we look at sort of 5 returns on investment. We have our annual report would look more like 5 parts. How have we sustained our business? How have we sustained our brands? How have we sustained our people, how have we sustained the community, and how have we sustained the environment. And I call that the Clif ecosystem. And I'll read to you from one more section about the Clif ecosystem. And in Chapter 7, I spend the entire chapter talking about this business model. And what I like about it is all of these parts sort of work together. And when one becomes out of balance, it affects the other. And I know all businesses feel this. Of course, when sales are down, morale is down. It always seems to happen that way. Or when you come out with a new product, morale's up. You get excited. You can get excited about new things. But let me just read to you what I call this stewarding the Clif ecosystem. The Clif ecosystem consists of 5 parts: sustaining our brands, business, people, community, and planet. Each aspiration is important in and of itself, yet the component parts interact similar to an ecosystem in the natural world. What happens in one area affects other areas. We saw how that worked during 2003. We didn't sustain our brand well enough, and that had an effect on our business, which in turn had an effect on morale. In an ecosystem, everything is interdependent. A certain number of human beings will probably survive no matter what destruction we wreak on the global ecosystem. Even if they end up surviving in a world that looks like something out of Mad Max or the Matrix. Clif Bar Inc. might very well survive if we brought in outside investors, or went public, or sold to a big company, even if the employees ended up working for a company that never served a single martini or weenie, which is our annual party we have in February, or never pounded a single nail in a Habitat for Humanity house. Our brands could probably survive, even if they ended up non-organic shells of their former selves. But survival is not the point. Human communities and cultures should thrive, and ecosystem health, biodiversity, and some degree of social equity are prerequisites for human thriving. Clif's incredible people, community service, environmental initiative, wellness program, and grassroots marketing are prerequisites for the company to survive and thrive. I ride my bike because I love to ride my bike. I don't ride just to get to the finish line. What happens on the bike makes the experience. I love white road journeys. I thrill at the high mountain peaks, the feel of the pedals and gears, the picturesque villages, the shared loaves of bread, the physical challenges, and being in the space where I can think clearly and listen to my heart. Clif could survive on the red road. Would we thrive? I doubt it. Clif Bar Inc. rides the white roads. We exist to thrive, not merely survive. With that, thank you for coming. And do we have questions? Do you want to do a couple questions? Thank you. A couple more pictures. That's the picture on the cover, and that's the Col Ferret, which is the first off-road pass we did in the Alps in 1986. Yes?
Now that you're running this company, a very large company, do you ever regret the fact that you can't go and do this kind of stuff more often?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, I do miss, there were years where I didn't do it again. But, you know, it was super special this year that we got to go do it together for the first time. And my friend Jay and I said when we did our first trip, we said, you know, we're going to do this every year for the rest of our lives. Because we met these guys that were in their late 70s doing nearly exactly what we were doing. And we said, that's us. And we did for the next 8 years in a row. We went back every single year and did trips that got bigger and bigger and more outrageous. And that's why the snow thing came into play. You know, we just started getting, you know, more wild. But you're right. With growing a business, it's been tough. And then we have kids. But I'm getting back to it now. And I feel fortunate that because of the type of business we are, we make a product for athletes and the outdoors. And so just naturally with the events that we sponsor, I get to go do events that are like this as part of the business. Yes?
You mentioned that power bars were the things when you started. How did it make you feel to go into a grocery store and see a whole wall of energy power bars? And
yeah.
How do you react to the new live food thing and the low carb?
Everything. Yeah, it's phenomenal. You know, timing is everything on that, because being the second, that really helped us. I don't know where we'd be right now if we tried to enter the category. But it just blows me away to see hundreds and hundreds of bars out there. It's a little scary, too, because at some point, you know, it's just more and more people taking up market share. And we're fighting harder than we've ever fought to keep our market share now. So, you know, day by day.
I'm interested to know about how you would compare grassroots marketing with more red road marketing and some of your experiences with that.
Okay. Well, for me, the way I simply define red road marketing would be very calculated, sort of, you know, the traditional print, radio, TV promotions, combining all that. You pretty much can calculate out what your turns are going to be. The problem is we do in our category in food. I have no idea about computers, but you're going to lose money if you go to that model for the first 2 or 3 years. You're going to lose money. And in fact, the people coming in that I had hired from bigger companies like Palmolive and Pfizer and Quaker and you know, Kraft and so on, would come in and say, you know, we're going to have to lose money for like 5 years before we turn this brand around. That's the way you do it. You launch it and you spend this, and then we'll make money after 5 years. And I said, I've never done that, and I'm not going to do that. Figure out another way. And let's talk to our consumers. And grassroots has always worked for us. So we spend now, this last year, we spent less than probably 0.5% on traditional advertising, but we spent almost 8% of our sales on grassroots marketing, and that's a lot.
Can you comment on some of the ways that some of the more effective ways that you've done that?
Well, we got two people here today, Katie and Amy, who are in the back, and you know, that's the type of thing. They're here to support, to talk to people about bars. We do 1,000 events a year. We have 1,000 athletes that are amateur athletes that go out and are just total enthusiasts about their sport. And we know that they talk about our company and about our products. These are not high-end professional athletes that are paid millions of dollars to just, you know, getting another endorsement. Because those, typically, as I was saying over lunch with a few people here, they don't have the time to even if they wanted to, they don't even have the time to talk about your product. But we've got people that are triathletes and mountain bikers and so on, and they're working full-time. Some of them probably work here. And they are so enthusiastic about their sponsorship, and they tell like 100 people a year, maybe 200 people, and then that just spreads.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't quantify that, and that's the thing. Large companies in our category, they want to be able to quantify it, and we can't quantify it. We're just like the idea of tipping point, you know, the Malcolm Gladwell's book Tipping Point. We're kind of betting on that, and again, we don't have any numbers that we're shooting for. Every year we do our best to project what natural demand would have us grow to, but we're not saying, okay, we need to grow this amount because our shareholders are saying they want that. So it helps to have that too. Another question?
I have one issue with protein bars anytime soon. Like one segment that, even though there's a lot of bars out there, it's very difficult to find vegan protein bars. It's probably not a big segment, but I'm curious.
We just came out with one.
Okay.
You can get it at REI. And you can get it at heGÇÖs.
How many grams of protein?
It's called Builders, and it's 20 grams of protein, and we have some for you today.
Do you have any milk products?
No. It's the first non-dairy, not first. It's
I know there are a few out there.
There's a few out there, but I bet this one is the most delicious one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That was that grassroots marketing you're talking about.
That's right.
I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
You mentioned sustainability, and I've been hearing this more and more in the context of companies and their ability to sustain their input from the environment and what the garbage they produce, say, from it. Is there any, I don't know, are there any projects to put sustainability in front of the consumer in terms of like what we've done for nutrition and fat and calories? Is sustainability going to be out there in front of the consumer in a way that we can compare products?
Compare products?
Yeah.
And you're talking about like us or all companies?
Preferably all companies, because before coming here, I had no idea Clif was the way it was. I mean, I thought it was just another protein bar.
Yeah, and we haven't always been in this direction. You know, it was after Pitt and I took the company back, so we want to keep it, that we converted Clif Bar to 70% organic. So to answer your question, you know, I think a lot of food companies are trying to do it, but the consumers, I think generally, you know, it depends on where you're at in pockets. I know in the Bay Area and up here, people are more conscious of sustainability and what that means, and the environmental impact that conventional agriculture has on the environment. But it's a hard road, you know. We're trying to do it in our packaging and in some brochures and we talk to people in my book and so on. But you know, part of the problem is, I'll go back to what I said before. A lot of these companies are getting eaten up by the large food companies, and the message is going away. So these large food companies say, hey, organic's growing, you know, it's growing at 55% annually. Let's go buy that company because we need growth. And then when they buy it, they stop talking about it. Or they do it, but they don't do it exactly. Ed Wallet is a great example. You know, bought by Coca-Cola, and I know the CEO there, I've talked to him several times. He's actually from Coca-Cola. He kind of became converted when he went to Ed Wallet to Walian, they say. And he was rejected. The immune system of Coca-Cola was just spitting him out. And he was trying to say, we got to be GMO free, and they said, we can't do that. And so they lost a lot of that. It's tough. Anybody else?
You mentioned that one of the mistakes you made on the journey was using national distribution networks, and that I guess at some point in time you had brought distribution back in-house. But now I find, for instance, if you go in Safeway right now, to local shopping market here, I can pick up a Clif Bar over there. Is that something you've changed now with expanding your product, or do you still do distribution in-house?
What I meant by that was, we're in a lot of stores. It's really incredible to be a food product that you can find in a bike shop, a golf course, a natural food store, a ski area. We're all over the place, Costco and Trader Joe's, which is great. But it's just what I was saying by that was we relied totally on one distributor to handle that for us. We basically subbed everything out and we took it all in-house. That's really all it was. So we handle all our sales in-house now.
Do you have an international presence?
We do not. No. Canada. That's my wife's Canadian. It's a boat right over there, right?
Yeah.
Hey?
Are there any plans to expand into Europe to really tap into the cycling crowd over there?
Back to your question, we were in Europe before. When you say are we plans to go international? When we backed out, we're food product. It was really difficult because of every country had a different regulation on vitamins and so on. They're the ones that actually taught us about GMO, about genetically modified. When we first started going over, they said, your product's genetically modified. You've got genetically modified soy. And we're like, what is that? This is like 1995. So I don't think even the term GMO was a term that Americans knew much about back then. So we decided, we tried it for a couple of years, and it was too expensive, duty, shipping, all that. If we do it again, we'll go manufacture over there, and then we'll just go live over there, ride the mountains all the time.
I wonder if you can summarize how the Clif Bar stacks up against other bars, and where is the difference? What are the main characteristics of the bar and of the company?
Two questions, company and bar.
Just the bar.
Okay. Well, back in 1992 when it was first launched, it was a lot different than now. If we entered the market now, there's a lot of products that are like Clif Bar, so we're not that different. We hope our taste is as good, and we're the largest certified organic bar in the market now. So that's a big difference now that we have in other ones. But back then, it was the difference between a taffy-like bar, like Power Bar, and a cookie-like texture and all natural ingredients. So that's always been something we've, differentiate ourselves from the others. But as more and more bars have come in, they've competed against us pretty well. But we're still hanging in there because of going back to the thing we talked about earlier, is the loyalty we've gained from the things we do as a company and going organic and just the long-term, ethics of our business, I think have helped a lot of our customers remain loyal. Last question, how are we doing on time?
We're doing okay.
Okay.
A couple more?
Yeah, a couple more questions. Right here. Go ahead.
Any plans for a sports drink?
Actually, we do. You'll see it in the stores next spring, probably. A powdered sports drink. Yep.
How much time does it take average to release a new bar flavor?
New flavors are pretty quick, but I'll give you a couple examples of two products. One had a short window, one had a long window. Luna Bar was one of these magical things that happened for us. Clif Bar was a grand slam. Luna Bar now outsells Clif Bar, which is phenomenal for us. It's kind of a weird story. I was working on another product, and our chief of brands back then, was our VP of marketing actually back then, who is now our CEO, said we were doing all this testing on women. Women wanted a bar that was lower in calories, a little more indulgent, had higher protein, soy, and so on. And we did all this testing around, and a lot of quantitative, qualitative, hearing consumers. And she pushed the button. She said, "Okay," because I was the only R&D guy back then. Said, "Go make me a women's bar." And literally 3 days later, I came back, and the products that you see on the market now, the first 4 flavors: lemon zest, nuts over chocolate, chocolate pecan pie, and cranberry toasted nuts and cranberry were products I developed in 3 days. They went to market, and then the rest was packaged. Then the packaging took 3 months. We were on the market from the day she pushed the buttons to being on the market in 4 months, which we can't do anymore. It's so hard to do. Mojo Bar, which do we have any Mojo Bars today? Well, so whatever you got. But Mojo Bar, go buy them at REI. They're great. That not only did that take like 2 years or so to develop, but when we came out with it, we pulled it off the market, and now we're relaunching it. So, for us, it can be a 4-month window or a 2 or 3 year window. Okay, 2 questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, Goo versus bar. How much goo do you sell there with the bar?
About 1% of our business. Goo is our goo called Clif Shot. Is an energy gel. How many people know what energy gels are? You guys are all, man, you're like way ahead even in the Bay Area. And Goo and Power Gel and our Clif Shot all came from Berkeley, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's very small. It's a niche market. Hardcore athletes, you must all be hardcore athletes. But we hope it grows. I mean, that stuff's magic. I don't know. Do you use it?
Yeah, climbing.
Yeah, I use it for everything.
I actually use it a lot here in Seattle.
Oh yeah, they use gels?
Scared to death.
Interesting. Last question.
I wonder if you can talk to the men's following for Luna Bar, and if there's any...
Sure.
It's a good bar, it tastes good.
Yes. I know, that was a big thing, and Cheryl writes this little sidebar in there about how the retailers and there was a National Public Radio little thing on Luna Bar, actually. It was funny. They said, how come you guys are cutting out half your market, being men? It's just a bar. I mean, how can it be so specific to women? Well, we know now from our quantitative study that 35 to 40% of all Luna Bars eaten are from men. So, there's a lot of really sensitive men walking around. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it.